In Formula 1, there are 5 different tyre compounds, the soft, medium and hard, which are meant to be used in dry conditions. And for wet conditions, there are the intermediates and, well, the wets. And in this video, I'm going to be reversing this and using the dry tyres in the wet. That doesn't make sense, right? Well, that's why I'm racing against 0% AI, which are the lowest difficulty on the F1 game. So for the first lap, I annoyingly have to start on wet tyres, as the F1 game doesn't actually allow you to start on dries in the wet, which honestly is fair enough. I get a pretty decent start as we slowly edge away from Max Verstappen, and now I've got the whole lap ahead of me to try and build as big of a gap as possible to the AI, so that I don't come out too far behind and therefore not complete the challenge. I'm going to skip a lot of this first lap here, as well it is just mainly me driving in fresh air. However, you may notice that even on wet tyres I am driving off the track quite a lot. This is because I've never driven the Qatar Grand Prix track before, which is not ideal. However, with medium tyres on in the wet, I'm sure it will just be absolutely fine. As we're coming into the pits here, I was actually a little bit worried as to whether or not the team would actually fit dry tyres. But as you can see, in the end it didn't matter and I actually got, well, a half decent pit stop. I kind of forgot to release the clutch, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, let's look at the top left here, and as you can see, I'm about to start dropping positions fast. I was first, and now, well, coming out the pits, I'm last. This was definitely not what I wanted. I wanted to come out the pit lane between 10th and 15th. Now I've got to overtake, well, 19 cars in 12 laps on a pair of mediums in the wet. I think it's fair to say at this point I wasn't very hopeful for the challenge. But that didn't matter. 2 sectors later and I've been sliding around everywhere. However, I was making progress to catch up to the back of Logan Sargent. And I was hoping that this would bode well for the rest of the race and that I was actually a little bit faster than the 0% AI. Through the relatively fast right-hander there, and now we've got a heavy braking left-hander, and I send it up the inside of Logan Sargent, and that was my first overtake of what would need to be 19 on this medium tyre. Next up was Lance Stroll, and as we're coming to the end of the second lap here, I knew I'd have to make overtakes fast if I wanted to complete the challenge. Once again, we're sending it up the inside, and then I tried to go around the outside of Nico Hülkenberg to get a better exit. Then I remembered that I'm on medium tyres and this wasn't going to happen anytime soon. Luckily for me, this would not be the end of my fight with Nico Hülkenberg. A little bit wide there, but I don't exactly think you can blame me for track limits with the tyres that I've got on. And then we get up the inside and he kind of just moves out of the way from us. Now we're up to P17. Next up was Hülkenberg's teammate Kevin Magnussen. Once again we're in the final corner here and I just broke a little bit later this time. I think me running next to him actually made him have quite a poor exit, so now we were just behind him. Little bit worse traction, no surprise there, but then I pulled alongside him and now we were past. Now we're up to P16 and we're on lap 4. This meant that I had to make 15 overtakes in 10 laps. The first of these 15 overtakes would be against Zhou Guan Yu. Coming up to a fast right-hander here and, well, I just brake a bit later, a simple overtake. Not long later and I was on the back of Daniel Ricciardo. Simple right-hander here, well, shocking corner cut apparently, I don't know how to take that corner. But then we get up the inside of him and he just moves out the way. To be honest, that is an illegal overtake, but that doesn't matter, we'll ignore it. We're still on lap 4 here and I once again seem to be making progress on this lap. No idea why, but it's exactly what I needed. We're coming up to what was one of my favourite overtaking corners on the track, the final corner, which is a bit weird considering you usually make your overtakes on the main straight, but that's alright, this is a weird challenge. I get a much better exit than Pierre Gasly coming out of the final corner, so now I was up to P13. But now you're about to see a really important part of this race. Now we're coming up to the start finish line, and as you can see I just set the fastest lap of the race. This gave me a load of confidence that I could actually complete the challenge, and as I narrowly avoid Esteban Ocon there, I started to think that the challenge might actually be possible. Next up is Carlos Sainz, and we're once again coming up to one of my favourite parts of the track. I seem to be breaking track limit rules everywhere, but we'll ignore that, remember the tyres I'm on. But then I send it up the inside of Carlos Sainz and I make another overtake into one of my favourite corners. So at this point I was feeling pretty confident. I'd been out of the pit lane for 4 laps since putting on the medium tyres and I'd made 9 overtakes, so I still had faith I'd be able to complete the challenge. As you can see there's a yellow flag here and I'm just behind Oscar Piastri, and then, well, Leclerc just blew up in front of my face and I had to just completely make 2, well, pretty dodgy overtakes, but they were definitely just accident avoiding, so I'm just going to count them anyway. And as we're coming up to the end of lap 5 here, I got a pretty good run on Sergio Perez. I'm pretty sure that the 0% AI straight line speed is pretty bad, as I was using 50-50 wings and I'm still able to just keep up with them on a straight. As you can see there, I just made a double overtake and now I was into the top 7 with 8 laps remaining. It took me pretty much a whole lap to catch up to Yuki Tsunoda, but that didn't matter as I was still making good progress. As you can see, I've set a purple sector in the first sector, so I knew I was still going faster than the front 2 of Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen. I got up the inside of Yuki Tsunoda here, but I couldn't get the car turned in. Sorry Yuki mate, but I didn't mean it. And as we skip through this little bit of the main straight here, I was somehow carrying more speed in a straight line than George Russell, even with my terrible exit. He goes really wide, once again another fastest lap by the way, and I just make an easy overtake around the outside. I was now in the top 5 of the race. Just a few corners later and I was just behind Lando Norris. I tried to go around the outside of Lando here, but of course my medium tyres were never going to allow me to do that. To be fair to him, he did give me a bit of space, and then, well, for some reason I tried to go for a switchback, but once again my tyres were of course not going to allow that. So I just made a very generic overtake up the inside of Lando, a lovely dive bomb, but now I could see Max Verstappen and he was 3.5 seconds ahead with 7 laps to go. 1 lap later and I was just behind Alex Albon, who had somehow made his way up to 3rd position. We go around the outside, he wobbles out of the way, and now we can see Fernando Alonso, who is only 3 seconds ahead of me. This meant that I needed to catch half a second a lap on slowly dying medium tyres. And it wasn't long after that I was catching up to Max Verstappen. Almost ran into the back of him there. We're now coming up to quite a quick left-hander, but I just fully send it up the inside and I actually make a really clean and nice overtake. Now we're in 2nd position and only 2 seconds behind Fernando Alonso. 1 lap and a pretty dodgy transition later, I was just behind the race leader Fernando Alonso coming onto the main straight. I thought that because I gained 2 seconds on him in the space of a lap, this would be a very easy overtake and the challenge would be complete. However, as you're about to see, that turned out to be quite the opposite of what actually happened. We're coming up to the final corner here and, well, I knew the AI would break pretty early, so I tried to make a really nice overtake. This would be the start of all my problems as I run really wide and now I'm just sliding all over the place. This allows Fernando to come and get back at me, and as we're coming into this left-hander, I try and cover him off by taking a really tight line. This does work, but only just. As you're about to see, my lead didn't exactly last for very long. We're coming into this right-hander here and Fernando Alonso is sending it up my inside. I try and hold it around the outside, but then I just run so far wide off track and I've got to give him space. Holding it at the moment, and then, well, he just gets much better traction than me, kind of hits into me. That's probably my fault. But then I realised I could not let Fernando get away as I was losing tyre grip pretty quickly, and if I let him get away I would not be able to catch back up. So I was wobbling around a little bit here, but at least I was back into the lead. And as you just saw there, it only took 1 more corner for me to start wobbling around again and give Fernando Alonso another chance to overtake me. He goes around the outside of me here pretty successfully, to be fair, and now he's got the inside line for this left-hander. I try and stick it around the inside here, but honestly I did not have the grip and I had to go off track. Even off the track I was just wobbling around. Currently we're side by side. This is a little bit of a long straight and I just had the advantage in a straight line. And then, well, yeah, I basically just lost full control of the car and I could not keep it in a straight line. This lost me about 2.5 seconds to Fernando Alonso, and with only 3 laps to go, it wasn't exactly looking great for me. However, I did not give up and I'm pretty sure Alonso made a mistake in the 3rd sector. That's why I'm so close right now. Now we're coming along the main straight and I've got so much more straight line speed. I'm in the slipstream, then I pull out. I know I'm going to go for a late overtake here. I'm wobbling about for some reason. Brake a bit later and we get up the inside. Fortunately, this would be the last I see of Fernando Alonso all race. Although he kind of got back at me there, I had him covered off. And now this is pretty much where I won the race. And there you have it. In the end, I won the race by over 10 seconds and therefore completing the challenge. Honestly, I think I won by such a large gap because I went for a full send fastest lap attempt. But other than that, thank you all for watching and I hope you enjoyed the Brazilian Grand Prix.